Hi all, AD here from Hans & Johns. As always, thank you so much for clicking on the video. I'm in deepest, darkest Sussex. I'm in a little village or a hamlet called Slaugham or Slaugham, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. And I'm at St Mary's Church. It was built in 1070, that's correct, 1070, by none other than William the Conqueror's son-in-law. But it's said that there would have been a church here in Saxon times that predated the 1070 part. It's got some beautiful trees in here, including a 900-year-old yew tree that's one of the most complete, like the girth of it. Quite often they're hollow, but this one is completely solid still. And there's some smaller ones as well dotted around, and it's quite a big graveyard, as you can see here. And there's some really big tombs. So yeah, let's go and have an explore. The church was established here by William the Conqueror's son-in-law shortly after the Norman conquest of 1066, so that would date it at approximately 1070. Now, whilst there's no visible fragments from that original building today, it is almost certain that St Mary's medieval church stands upon the footprint of an earlier, possibly Saxon place of worship. The site likely hosted Christian worship long before that, perhaps even as early as the Roman to Saxon conversion of Britain around 250 to 350 AD. And on the wall there's the list of all the rectors who have proudly served the parish through war, peace, plague, Reformation and revival, and each name here marks a different chapter in this church's long life, with the first one being recorded in 1246 and his name was Peter. This window was installed in memory of the Lister family, and it was installed on Easter Day in 1893, and they were a local prominent family. And this part of the church dates from 1290, but the window that you can see here depicts St Richard of Chichester, and it has the mark from the Kemp studios, but it was done by Mr. Tower, who was the chief designer after Kemp had passed away. This is another beautiful Kemp window, and it's in remembrance of a former rector of the parish. And in 2007 you'll see how they did major changes to the inside of the church, and this was the first time that it had been renovated since the Victorian times of 1856, and you can see old pictures of what the church did look like, and all the old pews, which were all taken out to open it up a little bit more. And that's great that they have a picture from 1858 restoration. It's great that they documented so you can see what it looked like before and after. And then on the bottom right here you will see where they opened the chapel underneath the Covert Chapel, which we are going to check out in a minute. So that wouldn't have been touched for centuries, and they laid underfloor heating, which I know it's very expensive, but it really does help preserve the churches. So very extensive work there, but well documented, which is fantastic. And this is the Covert Chapel, which was built in 1613 by a member of the influential family who held their manor of Slaugham until the late 15th century. So there's some very interesting memorials in here. And up on the wall here, I think you should pause and read this, about Captain William Ellison, who died after suffering from the gout for many years. And there was a dramatic gun battle. I'll let you pause it and read it if you're interested. And the mast is said to be preserved in His Majesty's dockyard in Portsmouth as a curious relic of naval history. And as we move over here to the Colvert family memorial, now Richard Covert is right at the front, and his wives, sons and daughters are all very skillfully carved in stone, and you'll notice over the top of their head the first letter of each of their names are above the figures. So it's a visual family tree cast in stone and a vivid testament to the lineage, devotion and status of these people in Tudor England. But it's in remarkable condition considering its age. I love how the women are always at the back. How times have changed, rightly so. There's some more memorials here on the wall, and then another beautiful stained glass windows, and these 3 panels were dedicated to the Rawson children, and it was installed in 1890. And then we look at this lovely wall brass, but it wasn't always on the wall. It was originally on the floor, but it was moved here during the restoration of 1858, and it's for John Colvert, who was a knight, died in 1503. He didn't have any sons, so he directed his heir in his will, who was Richard, to pay 400 marks to each of his 3 daughters, but the amount that they were going to get paid and left in the will depended on whom they married. And the font here is late Norman, although the plinth it now sits on is from the 1860s restoration. And it's made from local Sussex marble. And then we'll head over to the north wall and we'll see the old bricked up north door, which was common practice because they used to believe that that's where the devil would enter into the church. The war memorial was originally erected in 1920 after the First World War, and this is one of many such memorials to the millions who died fighting for king and country. And then later on down the bottom, they added the souls of the men who died in the Second World War. There's a couple of more beautiful stained glass windows and a lovely wooden panel, and the pulpit here is described to be of Flemish workmanship and possibly more than 400 years old. An inscription on it reads, "To the glory of God and in memory of Sir Robert Loder Bart, the gift of his son," in 1890. And before 1921 this pulpit actually stood at the north end of the altar rail. Over to the right here you'll see this beautiful organ, and that was dedicated in memory of Evelyn Warren, and it was dedicated by her children. And this is the vestry, and I found this in the wall. I have absolutely no idea what it was or is. If you do know, please do let me know down in the comments. And here is another absolutely stunning window. The colours on it were absolutely magnificent. Now, these are a couple of really old brasses and monuments, and this is Richard Colvert, because there was 2 Richard Colverts, and he died in 1547. And this tomb is made to look like an Easter tomb, which they would have used for the reception of the sacred elements from Good Friday until Easter morning. And this beautiful lectern was provided by subscription for the grand price of £30 in 1889. And this monument is for Jane Covert of the same family, and she was the great granddaughter of the first Richard Covert. And I'm going to light it up here so you can read it. if you can, and she died in 1586. She was buried here by her nephew, who executed the will and made this tomb. And as I look over behind the altar at this beautiful stained glass window, which was one of the first stained glass windows to be installed in the church, you can see traces of wall paintings. Now, these have been dated to the 12th century and some to the 18th century, and they were only found in 1857. So the 12th century ones may be linked to the same group, the Lewis group, which, if you've seen my other church from Hardham Church, they may have been done by the same people. It looks like to me that there's loads more underneath there, but we'll probably never know. And this absolutely magnificent reredos is made of alabaster, and it was given in memory of Mr. Warren in 1921, and it depicts 10 saints together with the Lord. And we're going to head into the bell tower now. In 1773, 5 bells were hung in the tower, and in 1934, 3 of the old bells were reset and 3 new ones were added. Now, the peal of 8 bells is hung on a ball-bearing frame, and they were a gift from the Secretan family and Captain and Mrs. Stevens in memory of the former owners of Slaugham Park and their grandson. And the bells are rung regularly by a group of ringers on Sunday services and on other occasions. And there is a dedication down here where the screen was dedicated by the Folk and White families in 1970. And I'm going to head back out. I'm going to have a look around the graveyard. But I just thought I'd show you this. On the right, you can see where the building had been extended. So in the corner on the left there, that was from 1290, I believe. And the other part on the right, to the right of that little window, is dated from 1613. And this is the other side of the bell tower. And then I'll take you around the side here, and you can see that's the north door that I showed you, but bricked up from the other side, and that was another original Norman feature. So that would have been an original part of the Norman church. Now, this is a very interesting memorial. You will see some well-known names in there. So you've got the East India Company, so it's very difficult to read. And also, there's a reference there to Horatio Lord Viscount Nelson. Now, Nelson's favourite sister, Catherine, married a local George Matcham, and they had many children. And she lived locally here in Slaugham. And there's a story about Lady Emma Hamilton and her daughter visited Horatio. This was after Nelson had died, and the family ended up taking in the young girl after her mother had died, but she never knew the relation to Lord Nelson. But she moved to Norfolk and married somebody else. And there's this beautiful metal Victorian grave, and it's Jane, the wife of Henry Sharp, who passed away in 1886. And as you can see there is many magnificent yew trees in this beautiful church. I won't show you all the yew trees as we walk around the churchyard, as it's too big, but the biggest yew tree will be at the end, and it's the oldest one in this beautiful old churchyard. The churchyard has been the final resting place for many generations of the local families of Slaugham parish. Now, the churchyard was used much further back than any of the church records go. Numerous enlargements have been made to the churchyard over the years. 2 maps of the most recent sections that were extended were on that map that I saw when we went in at the beginning into the south porch, and obviously I had to go and investigate down this bit, which was a little bit hidden away, and there's some more graves in the clearing, and there's another beautiful yew tree with many branches coming out. I'm not sure how old it was, but I thought it was fairly old given its girth. And I'm just realising now that there's many different species of yew trees. And there's a hidden gravestone just behind there. Absolutely beautiful. The oldest tombstone in this graveyard is a short distance from the south porch, although I couldn't actually find it, and it belongs to a Thomas Norvd de Sezed. Remember, it's Old English, that's why I'm pronouncing it like that, and it's dated from the 14th day of March 1615. So it might be that it's no longer visible on the headstone, but that's just the oldest one they've got recorded in the records. And there's this beautiful old Victorian grave markers. Now this is the oldest yew tree in this churchyard, and yew trees were once prized for the wood for the English longbow, and they're very commonly found in English churchyard. A Mr. Horsfield, writing in 1935, says that just outside the Covert Chapel is a venerable yew tree which must have shaded many generations of families as they walked to church. Its circumference at a foot from the ground is 24 foot and 7 inches. And I'm just pointing out there's some like straps around it there, so they're obviously supporting some of the branches. Again, in 1975 it was measured and it was recorded at 25 foot and 2 inches, and back in 1975 it was estimated to be more than 900 years old, and given that that's over 50 years ago, this big old beautiful yew tree can't be far off 1,000 years old. And of course I had to do what I always do and give it a big hug. You can feel the energy, don't care what anyone says, these beautiful old ancient living trees. I do hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please do like and subscribe, and if you want to support the channel a bit more, you can hit the Buy Me a Coffee link down in the description, and I shall see you for the next one. Might be a haunt, it might be a jaunt, who knows. Bye for now.